Okay.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Nitrous Talk. We are meeting after a long time. So, welcome, everyone. And we have today a great talk by Seema, who is from a 2002 batch. She went on a long trip with her daughter, and today she will be speaking about her journey, cross-country road trip adventure. So, Seema, take it away.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone, for joining this chat. And I'm really thankful to Rahul sir, who is organizing these things for us and giving me the opportunity to do this. So I want to keep it interactive, and pardon me, I'll be looking at this side. This is where my larger monitor is, and this is where the video is, the Google Meet is. So pardon me if I'm looking this side and you feel like I'm not looking at you. But yeah, this is how my road trip started. I think, gosh, this is the first slide. I don't know why. Okay, there we are. Okay, so I want to keep it interactive, like Rahul sir said. I don't want it to be like a speaker kind of a speaker kind of presentation. If you have any questions, interrupt me. No need to raise hands because I will always not be looking on this side. So no need to raise hands or anything. Just interrupt me and ask your question out. If I pass that slide, you might miss that thought. So let's keep it with the flow, and feel free to just nudge me and ask me the question that you have. And like I said, I want to keep it interactive. So I first want to go over this. I just want to quickly show the states that I covered. This is not necessarily the route I covered, but these are like the states in the direction that I went in. But there are for example, in New Mexico, I went to White Sands. So I really did not go up here. I just went here. And then from there, I went to Phoenix. And from Phoenix, although it says I went to Utah, but I really didn't go to Salt Lake City. I went here, near the Glen Canyon and all that stuff. And then I went to Vegas. So like that. But this is the list of states that I covered while I was moving from east to west. And when I was moving from west to east after my Oregon, this is the route I took. Same way. It's not necessarily the exact route, but these are the states that I covered. So this makes it 20 states, but other than that, I crossed a few states where I did not make a halt. They were just passing by. So overall, I actually crossed 23 states. Then the next slide is what I created as a post-it note here. So, I don't want to start with something boring that you may not be interested in. So go ahead and tell me what you would like to hear from me about. And I will be happy to start from there. Any volunteers who want to say something?
All of it.
Yeah, I will definitely want to do all of it. Is there a preference?
What was a rude awakening?
Sir, the rude awakening was something that Kingshuk actually already warned me about, but we still had it planned, so we did it. It was the rodeo event. So it was, we were very excited about the event. We had booked the tickets. We went for a wild event in Kanab in Utah. It was not expensive. It was like a $10 event, but it was like in an open ground. It was not like a fancy, amphitheater where it was happening. It was an open ground, tons of public, thousands and thousands of people. I and my daughter, being, animal lovers, we really did not like the way the calves were being treated. It was very sad to see that. So we didn't even stand for like 10 minutes. Like we left after 10 minutes from the place. So yeah, that was a rude awakening. We were very excited. We bought all the outfit. We bought the cowboy hats, the cowboy jackets, the belts, whatnot, the boots and all that. And we went very well dressed, but we didn't stand at the event.
Ma'am?
Yes.
Ma'am, how long was this trip, and let's say, what would be the total budget of that trip?
So yeah, so let's go to the budget if that's what you want. So this trip actually was a 30-day long trip with 23 states covered, like I said. And budget, if you ask me, my budget was close to $5,000 to $6,000. And I'm very glad to say that I was able to do that. My budget ended at 6,000 when I came back and checked everything. And it was a very same distribution across all the things where I spent the money. So I didn't do camping. I was not comfortable camping because it was just the two of us, like we were two girls. And, it just gives me, my husband also some security that they are safe. So we didn't do camping. If you do camping, if you're comfortable with that, it would be even lesser. So my entire hotel accommodation was $2,000 door to door. And I'll be honest to say this, that 10 days I did not stay in hotels because I met a lot of friends and family. So, that kind of brought it down a little bit. But I did not go for, very fancy hotels and all that stuff. I went for bare minimum. The only takeaway from my hotel accommodations is do not stay in. I personally did not prefer that. They were very, very bare minimum and extremely small rooms, kind of claustrophobic. The only time I spent in the first night when I left from Georgia and reached Alabama. It was like the first night. We literally had to just kill the night. We reached at like 10 o'clock in the night and we had to get up at 7 o'clock and leave. So it was not a big deal. So we did. But even for that period, I did not like that. So the comforters were not very comfortable. The beds and mattresses were not very comfortable. So yeah, so that's the thing. And then $2,000 I spent in all the shows that we watched, in Vegas, in California, places around, food. All of that was covered in that $2,000 because I took my Instapot and I was cooking most of the days I was cooking. Like at least the lunch was always cooked because I was working while I was traveling. So I was working half day every single day. And from 11, 12 o'clock, I would start my trip. So it worked out even better when I reached West Coast because the time zone changed. I am from East Coast. So I used to, be able to stop working around 10 o'clock every day because that would be 1 o'clock here. So I would be able to cover a lot more. Yeah, it was stressful in the sense, it depends on whether you can handle it or not. I fortunately was able to handle it. I did not feel the stress of changing time zone, getting up early, starting work at like 6 o'clock at some places and 10 o'clock at some places. So it worked out for me, but it really depends on, how much you can take in that kind of stress. But as far as budget, I would say that, if you cover with some places with friends, if you are able to cook for some days, you can easily do it within, $4,000 to $5,000, especially if you are doing camping. That just makes it even better because most of the camping places were like $25 per night. And they are safe. Like I researched a lot on camping, but just because, it was just a mutual decision in our family that we wouldn't do camping, I just did not do that. That answers your question? Everything?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
What's next? What do we want to talk about next? Anything?
So the guardian angel means you were probably in some trouble and somebody's helping.
Yes, sir. So the guardian angel was, it happened so, and this is the longest story to share, so it will take probably 5-7 minutes. So please be patient while I'm telling you about this. So we were going to Nevada from Utah. We visited Zion, and then we were going to Vegas. We were actually visiting Vegas, but we did not decide. It was planned to go to a place called Extraterrestrial Highway, which is an alien spot. There is a town called Rachel in Nevada, which is very known for UFO sightings. So we left from Zion National at 2 o'clock, and we knew that we are not going to get network for a lot of times from here to there. So just to show you on the map here is where we left from Utah. This is Zion, and we were supposed to come to Vegas like this. It was a good 4-hour drive from Zion to Vegas, but we decided to go to the terrestrial highway, which was here. It was a 4-hour drive, and then head to Vegas. So it was a little bit of detour for us. And every time I was planning my itinerary would show that this is the route we will be taking, and from there we will be coming to Vegas. So when I left from Zion, I put it on my maps, and I did not check to see whether it's taking me through the same route or not. We trust Google Maps. Wherever it's taking through the best route probably. So we just started following that. And apparently every time when I was planning my itinerary, I saw there was another light blue shown on this way, which said that there is another way to go to extraterrestrial if you are not going to this side, not going to down south. But it never chose that as in my itinerary. But when I put it in the Zion, it apparently chose this route instead of this route, and I did not notice it until a long time. So as we entered Nevada, as we crossed the border in this area while coming from Zion, we were at a speed limit of 85 on that highway. And as soon as we entered Nevada, we noticed that on the exit, it said that it was the town has a 25 speed limit. So I was slowing down to make sure I get to 25. But there was a cop who was coming from the front who did not notice me slowing down, and he just shot and found that I was at 40, and that was a lot compared to 25. So he turned on his lights. I did not know whether he's coming for me or was he going forward to someone else, but I slowed down, not realizing that. I went very slow, and I was constantly checking on my rear view to see if he's coming behind me, and he ended up behind me.
No.
Yeah, so we stopped there, and then he came, and he came to the right side of the window, and my daughter was sitting there. She was very scared. I'm generally a very safe driver. This is her first time encountering a cop. She's 15 years old, traveled with me a lot. We have never encountered a cop with her, so she was very scared with that scenario. And the fact that we were, near that Mexico area, he was a border protection cop. When he came in there, we saw that it was written border protection. So she was, even more scared. And then I rolled down my window, and he smiled, and with a very nice gesture, he said, "So ma'am, I'm seeing you're traveling all the way from Georgia." I guess he saw my number plate, my tag, and he was like, "You're traveling all the way from Georgia. What brings you here?" And I told him we are on a cross-country road trip. He said, "Where are you heading to?" I said, "We are heading to Extraterrestrial Highway." He said, "Okay, can I have your license and registration papers and all that?" He took it back to himself, and he looked at his, records and whatever, while we were holding our breath and waiting patiently. He came back and he told us again that, "Hey, I'm not going to give you a ticket. Consider this as a plain warning. I see you have a very good history of driving. You do not speed. You do not break the rules. So and you are on a very epic journey. I don't want to screw up anything for you. So let's do this. This is not even going to go into your records, but just know that Nevada is known for that all the towns of Nevada are known for extremely low speed limits, because it's a senior citizen town. So we do not go beyond 25, 30. Everybody drives slow. So by default, any town of Nevada, except for you go to Vegas or something, you will see 25, 30, 35 maximum. So just be aware. You are new to this area. I don't expect you to know that. So I'll just leave you with a warning. And then he picked into my car's tank, like the tank where it says how many miles I have left. And he looked at it and he said, "Looks like you are around half tank. It's only 253 miles. I said, "Yeah, I'm going to Extraterrestrial Highway. It says it'll take me there in 100 miles. So I should be able to fill in gas somewhere." He was like, "No, don't do that. Even before you take that ride to Extraterrestrial Highway, go straight on the same road without taking that right. There will be a gas station at 5 miles, and do full tank, come back on, take a U-turn, and then go to Extraterrestrial Highway." I was like, okay, he's a localite, he knows better. I'm just gonna listen to him. So even with the 253 miles, I never fill gas. Like I wait for 150 or something before I fill gas. But since he suggested that, we were continuously watching the road, and we saw that extraterrestrial right. We did not take that right. We went forward and filled gas 5 miles later, where the gas station came, and then took the Extraterrestrial Highway. As we went on to Extraterrestrial Highway, somewhere in middle of the Extraterrestrial Highway, it told us that you have arrived. And that's exactly what Google's supposed to do, because I did not give a specific a location as in like a store or anything. But we knew that there was an alien store there where they sell these alien mementos and stuff like that. So we were basically shooting for that, and we knew that was in town Rachel. So we were like, okay, this is in middle of nowhere and there is nothing absolutely there. And I would like to actually show you how it looked there. So this is the Guardian Angel. So your Google Maps would go like this when you drive on that Extraterrestrial Highway. You will literally have nothing to show where you are going. So we could not even tell looking at the maps where we were. We were completely out of network. It was completely going on downloaded maps. And this is what the downloaded maps had. So I told my daughter, we have gas, but let's go for 30 more miles and see if we are going to be seeing anything familiar. And if nothing, then we are going to turn around. apparently when we reached 30 miles, we saw a place called Welcome to Rachel, Nevada. We saw this board, and we were like, okay, we are reaching the place. And these small places, you see, these are all abandoned places. There was only one store in there, which was that alien store, and that's where we wanted to go. So we went into that alien store. We bought what she wanted to buy. All this while, it was 5 o'clock in the evening at that point. We had been driving till since 2 o'clock with no network at all, and had no contact with my husband. And we reached there. And once we reached there, we asked that lady. There's a very famous place called Area 51, if you guys have heard about that.
Yeah.
So Area 51 was the hype, like not the hype, was the place we really wanted to go to. So we asked the lady at the counter, can we go to Area 51? She said, yeah, just don't trespass, don't try to go too far into it. You will see these warning signs, you have to stop there. So she said, go back to the road where you came from and take a right around 2 miles, and you will see a dirt road. You can drive on that. That dirt road was crazy. Like it was not just a dirt road with the brown mud on it. It was a road where there was a rainfall at some point. It was all muddy, and then the tires that make the marks when they run on muddy roads, and then when that road dries up, it's like uber covered, right? Like it's not like the best dirt road to drive on. So I was in a SUV. It was fairly high clearance, but still I was scared to drive on that road. And at that road we had this, the Google Maps was showing like this. It was really scary to drive on that road. I did not know what will happen if I get stuck here. So we decided to, I told my daughter, let's go back and let's not go all the way. She was like, Amma, how would you feel if you have known that you were just 7 miles away from where you wanted to see, like you came all the way here, driving 400 miles, and you're not going to see that. So she was the motivation behind doing this. So I was like, okay, let's just do this. And while we were on that dirt road in 7 miles, fortunately the dirt road ended, and from the 8th mile it became a little better road. We reached to this place where you see warning and no trespassing, and we took some videos, pictures, and immediately headed back. And you're not going to believe, we came back to the same gas station and we were at 80 miles. Like our gas was only 80 miles. So I consider that guy, that cop, is a guardian angel who did not give me a ticket, but pulled me over just to tell me that I need to fill my gas. Otherwise, either I'd have been stuck or I would not have been able to make this place. And this was a very fascinating place, extremely fascinating. I would suggest everybody to be thankful before you head to this place.
That's a great story, and I think I also have in my bucket list to go there.
Yes,
keep that in mind.
Definitely, sir. Yeah. So and when I headed back to that gas station, we started driving back to Vegas, and I was like, why is there no network? Like I could not believe that there is no network, because I looked at all the no network roads. I did my homework to make sure that I do not travel on no network roads. I get network most of the places. Apparently, when Google says, right, that take this highway, that highway, Google doesn't name a highway. It tells take highway 85, highway 56, like that, right? So apparently I was driving on Great Basin Highway, which is the most remote highway of US. So that was the thing where when I mentioned, sorry, what am I showing here? Yeah, so this was the Area 51. I probably need to go back to a slide that I wanted to show here. Yeah, here. So this highway comes somewhere around in this area. It goes all the way from west to east, all the way till Chicago. And on this place, you are not going to find a gas station for 300 miles. Like after I crossed that gas station and headed toward Vegas, it was really silly that I found a board after crossing the gas station, I found a board that said that no gas station for 300 miles. I would think that they would put that board ahead of the gas station so people come and fill in the gas station. It was a board that I found there, no gas station for 300 miles. That's when I went to check on Google Maps, and it clearly said that this is Great Basin Highway. So that was something, I ended without knowing. But yeah, if you are well prepared, I suggest going on that highway. But after I returned home, I looked at a lot of stories where people got stuck on that highways because there are no gas station for hundreds and hundreds of miles. So yeah, just be prepared with that. So that was my
And ma'am,
guardian. Yes.
yeah. Uh, and ma'am, did you feel anything different when you were nearby Area 51, that in that area?
No, absolutely nothing. I was just very scared just by knowing that I'm in Area 51. We have heard that the rangers still stand on the camels on the, on the mountains, on the cliffs, from where they can actually, guard these places. So I was extremely scared, but I did not feel anything bizarre, that, something weird. No, nothing, absolutely. It was just I can tell you, for a 10-mile radius, there would have been only 5 people in that area. It was that remote. In the entire extraterrestrial highway, we did not see one car passing us. We drove like 250 miles on that road. We did not see one car passing us. So Area 51 was also extremely empty. Nobody there. People just go by themselves. Usually, when you go there, you'll be the only person there. So just be prepared for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was my guardian angel story. What's next?
Sir, you're mute.
Just saying, you can take us chronologically if you want.
Okay. Okay.
That's also another way of doing it.
Okay. All right. So let me go with the planning marathon. I think that's something, anybody would be interested in knowing. It took me a good 7 to 8 months of planning. I would not be lying if I said that. It was a very heavy planning when it comes to destinations and activities, because you will find places that are open on Sundays, not open on Saturdays. Some places are not open on Labor Day, Memorial Day closed. Some places will not be open from 6 o'clock. I have to make sure when I reach that is open. So there was a lot of planning to do from that perspective. So as I planned my destinations, I had to go back and look, okay, what time is this open on this specific day? Okay, will I be able to reach by this specific day? And a lot of logistics, in the sense I was working till 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock every day. So which makes me feel that I'm not going to reach my destination until the evening. So pretty much every destination I reached in the evening. Now that's a lesson learned, which I will go in my other slide, where I want to say that, when you plan a road trip, and if you're not working, reach to your destination in the night. Like if you want to, let's say, for example, you want to see Horseshoe Bend, I would suggest reach your destination near Horseshoe Bend, wherever you're staying, in the night by 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and visit Horseshoe Bend early in the morning. Whatever your destination is, right? Morning is never a bad time to visit. So unless like it's a show where you cannot, where you don't have the control on it. But that was a lesson learned, but I didn't have much choice. I knew that this is what I should have been doing, but because of my work schedule, I could not do that. But if you have a choice to do that, make sure that you reach the destination in the evening and visit your places in the morning, because you're fresh at that point, and you'll be more excited to see those places. By evening, you get tired with the long drive and all that stuff. It just I was able to manage, but my daughter would get a lot more tired, sitting in the car for like 5 hours before we reach a specific point. So destination and activities would take a lot of time. That took me good 6 months of planning. Safety risks and mitigation, especially the fact that the two of us were going by ourselves. A lot of risk mitigation was done. For example, I learned how to change tires. I learned how to add wiper fluid. Like if you have to add water, if you're going to extremely hot places, if your water evaporates, how do you add water into to have the wipers go smoothly. I learned a lot of such things, but most importantly, learning about when the California fires go, when Oregon fires were happening, you don't want to be around those areas. So basically, making sure the weather is good, what elevation you are going at. If you will be going at, for example, when we were going to Oregon National Park, the road was fine, but as we reached higher elevation, the visibility was so low, and on top of that, it was raining all the time for last 1 hour of reaching Oregon National Park. So, and there was snow on the road. So it was a bizarre condition. We were not expecting that, but I was not prepared for that. But the good thing was that it was a 4-wheel drive, so we did not have a problem with that. But again, on the road, we did not see anybody. And the time when we were reaching Oregon National Park, another thing you not believe, it was 7 o'clock in the evening, but you cannot tell by looking at this picture. This picture is from the Crater Lake at Oregon National Park, and it was 7 o'clock in the evening. And there were at least 200 people in there. And we were like worried, are we reaching very late? Are we reaching very late? Apparently, that was one of the best times to reach Oregon National Park. And we just hit it at that time. So yeah, preparing about our risks and mitigations, how you're gonna, I carried a two-way radio communicator in case we do get lost and those kind of things. I carried a lot of car emergency supplies, like the emergency kits that you need to carry, like the vests, that in case something happens. I took a AAA membership just before I was leaving, those kind of things. And I will be happy to share if anybody is interested in the things that I created an extensive sheet of what I do, what I have, everything, like my hotel stays, activities that I planned, and destinations that I went to. I'll be happy to share with anybody who is personally interested in this. But yeah, that lays out everything pretty much. To-dos and packing list, part of the planning. You can never have enough of it, and especially when you just have one SUV and you have to live for 30 days. There's a lot of snacks you want to carry, a lot of so you don't get dehydrated, not just water, Gatorade and whatnot, like orange juices and Sunny D. Those were my daughter's lists, but yeah, they came very helpful and handy. You don't want to drink all the time water. Sometimes you want to hydrate yourself with something sweet. You want energy, so energy drinks. Honestly, I did not take any. Like, I did not need any Red Bull or anything that would keep me awake, because I'm generally I don't feel asleep. I love to drive, so I just was able to manage that. But yeah, if that helps, people should carry energy drinks and things to keep themselves awake. Food planning and accommodations, like I mentioned, accommodations were not that, it was a big deal to keep searching for safety accommodations. At the same time, you want them to be not too expensive. So in my list, the only 2 accommodations that went above my budget, and I could not control that, is because one was at Vegas, where I don't have a control, and the other one was a specific destination, which I will come to. It's called Destinations Inn in Idaho, which is a unique destination by itself. The whole room is built with a city in mind. So we stayed in a room called New York City, and it was completely filled with things that New York has. Like, it had an Empire State Building there, it had Twin Towers, it had a Times Square. So they have Paris, they have Egypt, they have Rome, they have Venice, Italy, they have a lot of things. So that was a unique destination that I just wanted my daughter to experience. So if you have any such plans, plan ahead, because these things get booked really fast. Budget and expenses, we spoke about that. After trip, it's a lesson learned. After you come back from the trip, make sure that the gas stations where you filled gas, where it says you have been charged $200 because it takes a pre-auth, make sure that they actually are not charging you $200. You are actually charged for the exact amount that you actually filled the gas. But when I was checking my Amex card, pretty much every day I was filling gas. That was without a doubt. Every single day I was filling gas, and every day my Amex card would show $200, $300. There was a place that charged $500, but then I came back and made sure that all these places actually released my pre-auth and actually charged me for the right amount. And of course, expect the unexpected. How much ever planning you do, it never goes as planned. So expect the unexpected. Be always prepared. Do as much as you can. But then, God has his plans. So, if I was going on a trip for just for a road trip for 6 hours, 7 hours from one destination to another destination, I would take precautions so that no adventure happens. I don't want a flat tire and things like that. But when you go on a 30-day road trip with 300 hours of driving and changing destination to destination every single day, you're driving for 8 to 10 hours, it is not possible to not have an adventure. So, I knew that things are going to happen, but there's not much I can do about it. You have to just play it by ear and, just be brave a little bit, maybe. But yeah, that was the planning marathon. And yeah, our favorites. I think we saw the slide, but yeah, this was Grand Teton. I would say this is a hidden gem. When we went to Grand Teton, we were going from Idaho. Once again, we'll have to go back to map. So we were coming from Idaho to Grand Teton. Okay, and when you go to Grand Teton, right, it's actually somewhere here, and Yellowstone is here. So people usually try to cover Grand Teton when they are in Yellowstone, but I think it gets overshadowed by Yellowstone, which is around in that area. Like it was only 50 miles away from Grand Teton. So people usually just go to Yellowstone, and it's absolutely beautiful without a doubt. But Grand Teton's beauty kind of decreases because of that. But since we did not go to Yellowstone and we directly put the destination for Grand Teton, our path was like this. It didn't take us like this from Yellowstone to Grand Teton. It took us from the lower part of the Idaho. And the landscapes of Idaho were breathtaking. I have never heard anyone talking about Idaho. People have told me that Idaho potatoes, you will see potato fields and this and that. Idaho is very barren. There is nothing to do there. But the Idaho landscapes were amazing. Like that was, I would say that was a hidden gem. Like if I would have gone to Yellowstone from the north side, I would have never, seen that. But coming from the down south, I really appreciated the Idaho landscapes. So that was one thing that I would suggest. If you are not going to Yellowstone and just going to Grand Teton was absolutely mind-blowing. We could not do much hikes there, but if you have a chance, you should definitely try to do some hikes there. We were restricted by time, so we just visited a lake there, which is very beautiful as well. But that was pretty much it. It was absolutely beautiful. And of course, the White Sands, another place where I thought that I was at a wrong time, but it was just the perfect time. Like the sunset is beautiful on White Sands. The sand will start showing pink color as the sunset happens, because depending on the color of the sunset at that point, when if you have a pink sunset, it will become pinky. The sand will become pink. So it was something, my daughter also loved. Like if I ask her what is her favorite spot, she would go with White Sands. She did a lot of sandboarding. There are like huge sand dunes where she was able to do the sandboarding. And we reached at 7 o'clock there as well, because it was very hot. As you can tell, it's New Mexico. We did not want to go in the daytime, so we chose like 7 o'clock. We just thought we'll just see the sands. Like it's a white sand. There is nothing else to see. Apparently, again, the road to White Sands was completely barren. Absolutely no cars for like 25 miles or so. But when we reached there were like so many cars. There were like 200 cars there parked there. So yeah. You might think that there is nobody, but yeah, you will find a lot of people. So don't be worried if you don't see anybody on the roads. Next thing is my worst fear. There is no slide to talk about it, but my daughter is actually allergic to nuts and chickpeas and stuff like that. It grew in the last 2 months more, and we found out some allergies on the road, and she was hospitalized for like 6 hours in the emergency room. That was my worst fear that came true. I was carrying EpiPen, Claritin, Benadryl, whatever was needed, I was carrying. So basically what happened is we went for this Sphere show in Las Vegas, and she ate a hummus wrap from Starbucks, and she completely lost her breath. She was choked. She could not breathe at all. And we sat at the Sphere show, and it just opened up the screen to start the show, and she said, "I'm not feeling good." And we had to immediately rush her to the emergency room in the Sphere building, and then they took her into the ambulance and they took her to the nearest hospital there. So I gave her EpiPen, that emergency, and then she was fully on the bed for like next 6 hours. We returned back to Vegas in at like 12 o'clock in the night. Our entire thing was like failed that day. We had a David Copperfield show, we had a Sphere show, both of them, our tickets went. But then next day when I called up, they honored both the tickets. That was very surprising to me. That's something I definitely want to mention. Sphere honored the show because it happened there. They knew that we got up from the show and happened. So they honored the show, but David Copperfield, without any questions asked, they just honored the show. So we extended our stay in Vegas by 1 day, and we did all the other things. So things went behind a little bit. Like I said, expect the unexpected. You can never plan well enough. So our 2 days got moved a little bit because the days where the way it fell, the things fell, right? Like I planned something for a Sunday, but it went on a Monday, but I had to work that day. So we fell short of 2 days. So our whole trip went forward by two days. And I could not move my final days. Like I was arriving here on 22nd July. I could not change that because my husband was leaving for India on that day, and I had to be back but before he leaves. So I had to remove two things from our list of things in order to be able to make that 21st. So I drove for like 12 hours straight on 2 days just to reach our destinations where things that we just could not skip. So yeah, that was my worst fear that happened there. Hidden gems. Yeah, this picture is my favorite picture from the entire trip. It's called Great Chambers. You may not even have heard of it probably, but because we did not get the Antelope Canyons tours, we were reaching at a time that we could not manage Antelope Canyons. I wanted to do something in Utah, Arizona area. So I searched up, and looks like this was a great place to go to. It is actually a 0.4 mile hike, like at a 60-degree angle. And to get to that place from where you have to hike to this place, it takes 2 hours. So we booked a guide. It is only allowed on a high clearance vehicle, so we couldn't drive. You need a really, really high clearance vehicle. There are like boulders and stuff from which it will be like a buggy in which you will be going basically. Fortunately, we were inside a AC buggy, so it worked out all well. But the entire 2 hours was a very, very bumpy ride, but all was worth it. We reached here at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. This is like a cave, and once you get inside the cave after that 0.4 mile hike, it will be so cool. You can literally lie down and you can feel like under the rocks are so chill, like it'll take away all the tiredness. And beautiful place for photo sessions and stuff like that. As you can see, I'm jumping there. The guide was very nice. It was through the Get Your Guide Tours. It's a Expedia, partner, and the guide was really, really nice to do everything with us. So that was one, and the other one was this sand cave. Nobody sees this. This is actually a very hidden spot right behind a Shell gas station on the way to Horseshoe Bend. So just before reaching Horseshoe Bend, like Horseshoe Bend is like 3 minutes away, and there's a Shell gas station that will come, which is on the right side. Instead of taking that ride, go park in the Shell gas station, and they don't really care. Just park there, and it's just right behind that. You can see this place from there, but once you get inside the cave, you can take this picture from inside the cave, and this is the view you get. So I call them hidden gems because I found these places because I was researching on the net before I left, places where I can still go, even if I don't do Antelope Canyon, and these were the places that showed up. So the next thing in our list is, we spoke about this one, from the passenger seat. Yeah, so just a minute of talk probably about this one, and please stop me if you have any questions. Happy to answer anything. From the passenger seat, it was my teenager daughter, right? You can imagine how a teenager would be on a road trip for 30 days every day, driving for 8 to 10 hours. But she did really, really well. I had to, and we had a rule, no phones in the car, so that we can have conversations, we can appreciate the beauty and all that kind of stuff. But there were times around 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the evening where she will get frustrated. And I get that, after driving for an entire day, it is acceptable. So I'll give her a little bit break. I was like, okay, be on the phone for like 15, 20 minutes, get your mind distracted. By the time we'll reach the hotel, she will sleep for some time, she'll get refreshed. But I'm not kidding. This happened every single day at around 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock on the road. She will be going like haywire. She will not be able to manage that. But next morning, she'll be all refreshed. So, that's the thing I learned in a 4 days, she's going to go through that. She's going to get over that. But if there is anything you can plan to entertain your teenager better around the evening, because they will get frustrated, plan that ahead of time. Reflections and realizations. I think, I just realized reflection as in I loved my road trip. I have no regrets. I realized that I am a lot braver than what I thought I was. I did not think I could do this, but I just wanted to challenge myself. I am very appreciative of my husband who let my daughter, my only daughter, go with me on this risky thing where he was not there to help or do anything. And he trusted me for myself, for what I was going to do. I was really appreciative of that. So those were the kind of realizations. Like, I realized how much he trusted me. I realized how brave I was. I realized I cannot just drive along. So the maximum I had driven in the past was a 9 hour at a stretch when we were going from here to I think no, not here. We were driving from New Jersey to Orlando. That's the maximum I have driven. And that was just a day drive. But I realized that I can drive longer than that. I was never getting tired. I don't know what kind of skill set that is, but I was never getting tired. I was getting up at 6 o'clock, all excited to go to the next destination. And my daughter was like, "How are you doing this?" I said, like, I think, it's just the motivation of seeing a new place every single day. Next thing is things that caught my attention. This is a very interesting slide. I wouldn't hate to miss that. So these are the things that caught my attention. There are some places in the country that have exit by no name. This is literally no name exit. They haven't named. There is a city called Truth or Consequences in New Mexico. This literally will be on the highway if you're crossing New Mexico to Arizona, like if you're crossing this way. There is a place in Arizona where you will find this sign where people cross the border. So there's a sign to show that. Drowsy drivers use next exit. I just found this funny. There is a town in New Mexico by the name Aquila. It's in middle of nowhere and it's aptly named as Aquila. Then there is this place in Colorado. A lot of people might have heard about this Stanley Hotel. It's very known for the movie Shining. There is in the hotel. I found this very interesting. It is a haunted hotel. There is a room where they take you for tours and stuff. The movie Shining was built on the sets of this hotel. Like, it was inspired by the sets of this hotel. And my daughter and I are very fond of mystery places, haunted houses and all that stuff. So we visited this hotel. So that's where it comes from. First time when we were crossing the border patrol, we were very scared. We thought we were crossing Mexico and we were like, why are we supposed to cross this? Like, are we on the wrong route? It kind of scared us. But then apparently we realized every time you cross from Texas to New Mexico, then you cross from Arizona to Nevada. And then when you cross from Nevada to California, we had to go through this. Every time the cop would stop us, there are the pictures of those most wanted people, and they actually stop you to see you are not one of them. They ask you whether you are a US citizen. We had to show passports and then they would let us go. That's pretty much it. But first time when we had to go through that, we kind of, skipped a breath. This is an interesting spot called Four Corners Monument. We just took this picture on our Google Maps. It is an intersection of 4 states. It's a very known place called Four Corners Monument. They have commercialized a lot. They sell a lot of stuff. There are a lot of stores there, but I just found that interesting on the Google Maps when it showed us there. This was a windshield crack that happened in Arizona before reaching to King Shook's home. And apparently I found out from King Shook that it's very common in New Mexico, Arizona, and Nevada area for windshields to, get hit by gravels, because they intentionally put gravels on the sides of the highways because it's extremely sandy and muddy. They don't want the dust storms to affect. So they put a lot of gravel, and gravels will, with the erosion, it will come to the road, and some truck will, throw it on your car. So it's very normal. I went to Safelite to get it fixed. They asked me all the details, where I'm coming from, where I'm going to, and all that. And they said that if you're not going to reach home for another 20 days, we suggest you do not fix it right now, because you might get another one. And, insurance is not going to pay for the second one. So, because this is just in the center, it was not in my spot. It was not in my daughter's spot. It was not affecting our drive really. They said it's not illegal. You will not be in trouble. Even if you have this, you can just drive and, finally fix it. So when you reach your final destination. So that was an interesting picture we found in one of the gas stations, where this dog was just sitting in the car waiting for its owner. And the owner had gone inside. He was just patiently waiting for the owner. For the 5 minutes the owner did not come, he went inside the gas station, checked out his owner, and he came back and sat back in the car. My daughter and I were like amazed by the gesture. And then the owner came. We just stood in that gas station to see what's going to happen. We were worried that the dog is going to run away. He was not on a leash, nothing. He was just cool, calmly sitting there waiting for the owner. We just found it interesting. These are some of the flowers of the desert. I found this another interesting thing. It was just growing from the ground. There was no plant around it. And it was just funny, like, So I had, this was on the way to Great Chambers. On the buggy ride, the guide would stop at interesting places and show us things. So some flowers in that area. And another, this was in White Sands, apparently. This was a beautiful flower. You can find this in all the desert areas. Next thing was, this very interesting story about, I'm sure everybody knows Alcatraz Island. This is the only guy from Alcatraz Island. You can read, I don't know if it is visible enough, but basically this is the only guy who actually came out of Alcatraz Island and led a normal life. Everybody else had a miserable life. So he's like specifically written up there saying that he did a lot of good work inside the island. He even became an X-ray technician inside the island. He completed his diploma, his college, everything inside the jail, and he actually came out and led a good life. So he looked like a hero to me. So I took a picture of that. And that is the extraterrestrial highway where our car just stopped and said that you have arrived, and we went ahead further. And this is a unique Prada store in Texas. Might have heard about it, Prada Marfa. This store is built in middle of nowhere in Texas. It just literally is in middle of nowhere, and there will be tourists. You will not be alone there. They opened the store with the intent of actually selling things there, but the first night of the history goes like that. The first night itself, the store was burgled, and they had to put a security system around it, and now they only keep one pair shoes. Like they only keep the left pair. They don't keep the right pair. So that was something interesting we found, so we visited that place. Okay, yeah, so I'll go through this. These are the two unique destinations that I was talking about. One is this destinations in Idaho. They make the destinations very unique to the cities. Ours was New York City, so it was full of all the New York stuff. This was I would highly suggest, this was my favorite place to go in Utah. It was Red Canyon Cabins. It was like a home. It was literally like a home. And it is maintained by a Desi, like a Desi family who manages this entire, resort. Very convenient to the Kanab city. Lot of good places, good eat outs, lot of good things. But yeah, I just found this very unique and very serene area around. And there is right behind this place, there is a what is that, hot air balloon where you can, use the hot air balloon. So it's a very scenic area. So these were my favorite destinations, like from an accommodation perspective. We did stargazing, of course. We did, this background is a background picture. This is the real picture of Colorado where we did the stargazing. This is a very unique experience that we had. There were a lot of lessons learned. We ended up in this area. It's called Larimer County. I think I wrote it's somewhere here. I think it's behind my slide. I will edit the slide, but it exactly tells you where you need to go and book this event. It's a free of cost event. Volunteers, astronomer volunteers, they come and bring their huge telescopes to this Hermit Park in Colorado near Estes Park, and they open it up for the people to view, and they will put it in the right angle for you to see. So we saw so beautiful galaxies and stars and Mars and planets and whatnot. Like, it was amazing. And just with your bare eyes view, you can see this kind of view. But if you want to go deeper, that's like a place to go to. The lesson learned there was it was pitch dark and we had to walk a little bit. We forgot to carry the torch, so it was a little bit of a hassle to get to that area, but we were able to hear people because there were a lot of people there, so we were able to hear, and we were just, by our hearing ability, we were just following the road and we reached them. And these are some friends on the road. As you can see, we met Rahul sir, Srinivas sir, and sir, I forgot his name. Do you remember?
Mahesh. Mahesh Moglish.
Mahesh, yes. So we met these three of our college mates, and this was our friends with whom we stayed in California. They also accompanied us. And King Shuk and his wife, they are both our college alumni. These are some of my school friends that I met. This is a place called Winchester Mystery House. Probably California people know. It was another thing that we were interested in. It's a mystery house where the history is like the lady who built this house was getting information from the ghosts about how to build the house. She built this house based on the suggestions made by the ghosts. So there is a room where she used to get the suggestions, where she used to write what needs to build, and the next day she would come and give it to the architects, and they would build the house. It went day by day like that, and that's a huge built house. Another of my friends from school, and my husband's friends, my daughter's friends, our family friends, and that's basically all the people with whom we stayed, and an entire trip. These are the lessons learned. Arizona snakes. I did not know about this, so I want to mention this. This is not my lesson learned, but I realized that I could have been a part of this. So I hear that in Arizona, it's very common for, especially when you go to places like Saguaro National Park and stuff like that, extremely dry places, rattlesnakes are very common there. Even pythons are very common there. They would just roll on your car's wheels and you wouldn't even know about that. You wouldn't feel anything because you're driving at such a high speed. They wouldn't die, but they would be somewhere under your car, and you're just at risk. When you get down, you have to be very careful that there is nothing. So that was a lesson I realized that I should have done, but fortunately we did not face any of that. We did not see any snakes. We did not do any hikes in the Saguaro National Park, but that is something you want to be careful about. I'm sorry. Damn it. Okay. Bear spray usage. This was a lesson learned. Whenever you spray a bear spray in the wild, right, make sure that you know the direction of the wind. You have to be very careful about that, because if the wind is coming in this direction, the bear is also standing in front of you, and you spray the bear spray, it is going to come to you also. And I had that situation when we were trying the bear spray outside in our backyard to ensure that I know how to use this. The wind was in opposite direction. The bear spray came into us, and it was a good 2 hours of coughing, and because it's basically pepper, red pepper, and it went inside the nasals and throat, and for 2 hours we were very uneasy. So it's a very effective spray, that much I can tell, but be careful with the wind direction when you spray a bear spray. Sir, can I still carry on? I see it's one.
Yeah, I think definitely, these are very good lessons, and we are around like 50 minutes into the talk.
Okay.
Since it's an interactive, we will not have any questions. So if anybody wants to ask a question, you can raise your hand, not the physical, but at the bottom of the screen. But yeah, I think go ahead for some more time. Yeah.
So torch always in backpack. That was a major lesson learned from the stargazing event. It was pitch dark, as you can imagine. So without a question, regardless of how dark it is, how bright it is, always carry a torch in your backpack. Food poisoning alert. So we did not have this issue, fortunately, but this is a lesson that I have learned from one of my friends who had gone on the road trip, that they like to stick to specific food chains that you have already tried, especially when you are on such a long road trip, because if you try a new food, something happens, then you are screwed for like next 3-4 days if something happens. Like they had that situation where her daughter was 3 days like bedridden on their cross-country road trip because they tried something new. Unfortunately, it didn't happen with us. We tried a lot of new food. We thoroughly enjoyed that. I personally did not take that lesson, even though I knew about it, because we are foodies. We just wanted to try stuff. But if you are, sensitive to new foods, then maybe something to think about. Two-way radio communication. So the walkie-talkies, that's what I carried. I also carried a radio, like a separate radio, which had a flashlight. It had a screwdriver. It was like a multi-tool, but it was mainly a radio, from which you can listen in, like, about the world if you are in a lost place. But I also suggest to carry a two-way radio communicator, which is like a walkie-talkie, where you can change the frequency, actually talk to someone and communicate that you are stuck somewhere. These walkie-talkies literally work everywhere, anywhere. They will catch some frequency and you will be able to communicate to someone who is on that frequency. And they are not necessarily, cops or people. Some people are just like, playing with walkie-talkie. Like, these walkie-talkies are actually toys. They're $25. There are two that would come. My daughter had bought it for, a friend lives on the other side of the street. She had bought it to have communication. It covers like a mile radius. So she bought it for that purpose. And fortunately, it worked out for us as well. Ideas when you're lost with no signal. So this happened when I was telling you about the Area 51. When we went to that store where we bought our mementos, we realized that we had no network, and my husband would be like freaking out at this point. So I created a transaction in that store, and that's what told him that, okay, she's safe, because he saw this transaction coming in his phone, which told him that, okay, something is going on. It was not even like a huge transaction. He knew that I am going to buy mementos and, magnets and stuff like that. So he saw a 1099 transaction and he knew that I bought a magnet somewhere. So that way he knew that I was safe. I'm just not in network. Another thing about that was he was tracking us everywhere. We had installed Life 360 on our phones, on all three of our phones. And it's a very convenient tool to tell us. So he didn't need to call us to see where we are. Literally, the map would tell that we are driving on this road. Like, it will be very clear. But when we reached that extraterrestrial highway, we disappeared from Area 360. We completely disappeared. We were not even showing anywhere. Otherwise, it would somewhere make a circle and say that they are somewhere here. It will not point exactly if it's extremely low network area. But in that area, we completely disappeared. So he got a little worried, and which we found out after we reached Vegas. But when we created that transaction, he took a breath and he was like, okay, they are fine. They're somewhere out there. And then when we reached Vegas around 8 o'clock, I'm not even kidding, on that Great Basin Highway, when you will reach, you will not get network until you actually see the lights of Vegas. It's that bad in that area. Like, you will see rest areas, you will see a lot of things, a lot of small abandoned homes and all, but you will not have network. And I was on T-Mobile network, just so everybody knows. So once we started seeing the Vegas lights, that's when we got the network. So yeah, when you get lost, try to find some store where you can create a transaction so your family knows that you are safe. Keep your sightseeing for early mornings, like I mentioned earlier. Don't keep the song downloads for the last. I was very lazy about this. I did not download enough songs. You can imagine, when you're going on a 30-day long road trip, you want at least 2,000 songs, and you cannot sit and download 2,000 songs in a day. So, keep it like a task that you can do every day, 10 songs, something like that. It'll keep your life easy, because I struggled to download songs the last day. Stay away from large vehicles on empty highways because of that windshield. Yeah, it's just safer to stay, but you cannot foresee something that comes flying to you. So yeah, that's the best you can do. Stay disconnected from work. That was a lesson learned. Next time if I want to go on a road trip, I would not want to work. This time I had to, because I was also going on an India trip, so I didn't have vacations, so I had to work. But if you can stay disconnected from work, that will keep you more focused on what you are doing, and it will just be more enjoyable. Keep a seat cushion and a towel handy in the car. Seat cushion, because you're not going to be able to sit in car for like 10 hours every single day. That seat cushion was a miracle. Like, it was just very convenient. Sometimes I would give it to my daughter also. She would also require a seat cushion. But the con of that seat cushion was on the passenger seat, it would turn off the passenger seat belt. So that was a thing that we learned as we were driving, that every time she sat on the seat cushion, it would turn off. And then when she removes the seat cushion, it would realize her weight. Other than that, it would realize only the seat cushion's weight, and it would turn off the passenger seat belt. Not the seat belt, the airbag. Passenger airbags would turn off. So that's not much I could do about. She had to just suffer through that. In highways where there were less traffic and stuff, I would give her the seat cushion, where I would know that, okay, this is a safe place to drive. So I would give her the seat cushion. So even if the airbag turns off, it's okay for some time. Expect the unexpected, of course. listen to locals, but follow your intuitions, right? That goes anytime. I listened to the cop, but I could have just, not listened, thinking that 200 miles I can go in. And then I'd have heard my intuition and come back without visiting that place. But I felt that cop was really like, he was really being very nice. He did not try to scare me off. He gave me really good advice. He was looking out for me. So, I decided to follow him. Look out for every single signboard on the road. This was a lesson learned. Again, like I said, that 300 miles, no gas station for 300 miles was written after the gas station passed. So if you see that sign, and if you are at like a 200 miles, you will have to take a U-turn, and you don't know when you will get a U-turn, because it's like a highway. It's like a highway where, exits are like, these are the highways I'm talking about, where usually, like, in an exit, you would not be able to see anything what's inside the exit. But these are the highways where if there is an exit, you can see the gas station from the highway itself. It's like that clear. There is nothing else on the exit. So they may not even be an exit. So you don't know where you will get a U-turn. So be very careful in reading out the signs where the road signs are. Every road sign is important. I think this was overhyped. Other than this, I also think the Erewhon in LA was overhyped. It was a kill for money. I ended up spending $50 buying our lunch buffet. It was not worth it. But yeah, it was my daughter who had to create a TikTok after visiting Erewhon, so we visited that. This was a hype. And these were some of the missed opportunities because of shortage of time, because of, I followed my intuitions and I did not want to go on those roads. Monument Valley, I could have done on the way from my horseshoe bend, but I thought that I will get late reaching my hotel. I did not do that. Monument Valley. It is again another remote place. A family that was in Horseshoe Bend and saw us in Four Corners Monument as well. They followed us all the way to Horseshoe Bend, and they said that, oh, we thought that you will also come to Monument Valley. It was a very serene place, but extremely remote, absolutely no cars. So that's another place, you can expect absolutely no one. But it's definitely worth taking that detour for like 75 miles, going to Monument Valley and then coming to Horseshoe Bend. Same with Lake Powell. It goes a little further, but it's a very serene place. We missed out because we thought we are going to get late for Horseshoe Bend. Antelope Canyon, we didn't get the chance because of the timings, didn't work. Holocaust Museum, it was closed the day we went there, so I missed that. That was something on my list, and I probably did not, with all the things in LA, we couldn't cover the Holocaust Museum. We had only 3 days in LA, so. Sequoia National Park, really, really wanted to go there, but then friends suggested that that's not a place where you can just go visit the area and come back. You want to hike there. So, I decided I'll just cover it separately. Antelope Valley, the best time to go to Antelope Valley is the first week of May 1 to May 15. We were much further in June, and when I looked up Antelope Valley, it was completely dried up. It's a very beautiful place if you ever decide to go in May. It's basically antelope, the flowers, the poppy flowers. It's a field of poppy flowers. Petrified National Forest, another missed spot because we were stuck in traffic after leaving from King Shuk's home for 2 hours. There was a major accident. There was like a death in the accident. The traffic was like stuck for 2 hours, and we had to skip Petrified National Forest for that. And we headed directly to our destination, to our our accommodation on that day. Cleetwood Cove and Rim Drive. Yeah, so we reached Oregon National Park somewhere in mid-June, around 13th, 14th, if I'm not wrong, 13th, I think. The Rim Drive was not open. It opens only after 16th June, it seems. And as I told you guys that there was still a lot of snow as I was driving on towards Oregon National Park, so that made sense. So we couldn't do the Rim Drive. And same way, Cleetwood Cove was also closed. It's basically the most beautiful and the easiest hike of Oregon National Park. It is a little steep, goes a little down, up and stuff. When you have to come up, it comes like very steep way up. But it takes you actually to the lake. So you actually go into the lake. So that was the thing we had planned, but we couldn't do because it was closed. Stanley shows, we missed it. There were some scheduling conflicts, so we had to cancel that show. We couldn't do that. But it's a theatrical seance. If anybody's interested in those kind of things, very unique show. You will not find such a show even in Vegas. It's called, the show itself is called 13. And there are only 13 people allowed in that auditorium. It's a very unique show. So maybe next time. But that's pretty much it. I would be happy to answer any questions if you guys have.
That's great. I have a question.
Sure.
What prompted you to take this trip? Like, generally we are busy with work.
Yes, sir.
What's
Yes.
the trigger?
That's a very beautiful question, sir. I love to answer that question. I have been dreaming of this trip. I came to US in 2006. I got married and came to US. I saw the picture of Horseshoe Bend in 2007 in one of the papers, magazines or somewhere, and I wanted to go to that place. But as I lived in through my marriage, I realized my husband is not a big fan of these rocks and canyons and deserts and all that stuff. So in 2008, we went to Grand Canyon, and I actually saw how much he hated that. So I knew I'm never going to be able to go with this guy. So I knew that I had to go alone. How am I going to go alone? I'm not just going to go just to Horseshoe Bend and visit this. Eventually, fast forward 2015, I saw something, 2013, I saw something about Colorado like that. And then I was like, I got to do this. And then I saw that there are so many beautiful places. Why not just do a road trip? So I actually planned to do this road trip in 2014, sir. But my daughter was only 4 years old, and a lot of people suggested that this is not a good time. She's going to be, cranky. You're going to make her sit in places where you cannot bear, and she's a 4-year-old kid. She'll be sitting in car for hours. No, that's just not fair. I mean, all good well-wishers, but I cursed them. I was like, why didn't you tell me not to do? Because I waited for this time for last 10, 11 years to do this trip, because so that she grows up a little bit and she can actually enjoy, because I knew my husband is not coming with me. I needed somebody to come with me. So I waited for her to grow up. And then last year, one of my friends, whom I think I showed here, those friends we visited in California, and we came with you guys, sir. These friends,
Yeah.
they had gone to the cross-country road trip, and they visited us in Atlanta. And that revoked my dream. I was like, let's do this. So that's when I started planning. They came in September end, and I started planning in October.
Nice.
That's it.
Yeah, it's very, very big journey. I met you and I was thinking, wow, I met that lady also, and she was very gung-ho about going places. And
Yes, absolutely.
very- anybody else has any questions?
Well, just kudos for ma'am for
Thank you.
taking that challenge and driving to your aspirations.
Yeah.
This is very encouraging.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, and anytime, if you guys have any questions, if you want to have a one-on-one conversation about specific places or, experiences or how to get to this place, please feel free to ping me. You all have my number. I'm available to talk.
Great. So what I will do is I will stop the recording. After that, we can have informal chit chat.
Sure, sir.
So let me just stop the recording.